In the crowded streets of Restoration London, among the cries of merchants and the rumble of horse-drawn carts, a legend was born. Eleanor Gwyn, called Nell, was born in 1650 to a ruined royalist soldier and a mother who kept a bawdy house near Drury Lane. Her father rotted in a debtor's prison and never came home. Her mother poured gin and took coins from strangers, but fate had other plans for Nell.
A dozen oranges, please.
Right away, sir. That'll be 6 pence.
Here you are.
Thank you, sir. And 1 extra for your kindness.
That's very kind. Thank you. Good day.
Even as a street vendor, Nell possessed something rare, a spark that drew people to her. The Theatre Royal on Drury Lane became her second home. She would sneak in, watch the plays, memorize the lines. The streets had taught her survival. The theater would teach her magic. At 14, Nell became an orange girl at Drury Lane, a job that brought her closer to the stage she loved. One incident at the theater changed Nell's life forever.
You there, girl. Think you can do better? Give me the stage, and I'll show you, madam.
That cheeky answer changed everything. The theater manager gave her a chance. And Nell, with no training, no connections, simply grabbed it.
Oh dear, sir, you hurt me, but hurt me again!
Within months, the orange girl became a rising star. By her late teens, Nell was starring in productions. Not because she was the most beautiful, plenty of others were more striking. But Nell had something no one else could fake, a warmth, a realness that made audiences fall completely in love with her. The Restoration stage was rough, often crude, but it was alive, and Nell was its brightest new flame. She had escaped poverty. She had found her calling, but the greatest chapter of her life was about to begin. In 1668, King Charles II walked into Drury Lane for a performance. By the time he walked out, nothing for Nell would ever be the same.
Who is that girl? She shines like no other.
They call her Nell, Your Majesty, the orange girl who became an actress.
The king was 38, she was 18, but age meant nothing when their eyes met. Nell was no shrinking violet. She knew exactly what was happening. The king sent for her. Not to his bed, not yet, but to talk. He wanted to know this extraordinary girl.
They say you were once an orange seller.
I still smell of citrus, Your Majesty. I hope that doesn't offend.
Nell's honesty was her greatest charm. She never tried to be anything other than exactly herself. Their first conversation stretched on for hours. Charles found something he hadn't felt in a long time, someone completely real. The orange girl had caught the king's eye, but she was about to discover that royal love was no fairy tale. From that night, Nell was thrust into a world of palace intrigue, rivalries, and dangerous politics. Charles set Nell up in a small apartment at court, not officially his mistress, at least not yet. But this was different from his other arrangements. With Nell, there was no game being played, just something that actually felt real.
They'll try to take you from me, you know. The court is full of vipers.
Let them try. I didn't survive the streets of London to be scared of palace politics.
But the king's affection made Nell enemies. The most dangerous was already watching. Barbara Villiers was the king's true power, wealthy, connected, ruthless, and she saw Nell as a threat. The war for the king's heart had begun. Nell refused to dress in the extreme fashion of the court. Her simplicity made her stand out more. The court was divided. Some called her the Protestant mistress, a welcome contrast to Catholic Barbara.
You think you can replace me? You, a street urchin? I don't want to replace you, Lady Barbara. I just want to be myself.
Nell never fought with jealousy. She simply refused to play the court's games. Charles admired Nell even more for standing up to Barbara. She was the one woman who wouldn't bow to anyone. By 1670, Nell was officially recognized as the king's mistress, but she never forgot where she came from.
Whoa, papist, away with her!
Good people, you are mistaken. I am the Protestant whore.
That's what Nell called herself. She asked only for the king's honesty and his presence. She had won the king's heart. But the greatest test was yet to come. In 1671, Nell gave birth to her first son, Charles. The king acknowledged him publicly.
He has your spirit in his eyes.
And your crown one day. Though I hope he's wiser than both of us.
Soon after, Nell gave birth to her second son, James. The king welcomed him with the same love and pride.
Remember, my loves, wherever you go, whatever you become, never forget who you truly are. My sweet boys.
Unlike other royal mistresses, Nell raised her children herself. She was present, loving, demanding. For all her royal life, Nell remained the orange girl, unpretentious, warm, utterly herself. As the years passed, Nell's sons grew into fine young men. She remained their closest friend and guide. The king cherished every moment with his boys. Together, they formed the happiest family at court. In 1685, the king grew ill. Years of excess had finally caught up with him.
Don't cry for me, Nell. You've made my life worth living.
And you've made mine, my love, from oranges to...
With the king's death, Nell lost everything: her protector, her love, her world.
Is there anything you need?
Only a glass of brandy and my memories, my dear. That's all I need.
She was buried in Westminster Abbey, near the man she loved. Her epitaph was simple. Here lies that which was mortal of Nell Gwyn, the Protestant mistress who never forgot her roots. Nell Gwyn went from selling oranges on these very streets to becoming one of the most famous women in English history. She never forgot where she came from. And England never forgot her, the orange girl who captured a king's heart.